Okay, so last week we mentioned an idea, and I said we could probably go deeper into it, and that's what we're going to do in this class with the idea of Olam HaBa, right? We spoke about Olam HaBa as Olam HaTechiyah. There's a discussion whether it's Gan Eden, Olam HaTechiyah, and it's an intrinsic discussion that we're going to get to in this class. It's also based on the Rebbe Maharash, which we discussed 2 classes ago or 2 series ago with the weapons of war. And it's also connected to Pirkei Avot, which is always relevant during the summer. Yeah? Mm-hmm. But we'll start with a story.
Okay.
Because that's what Mark likes.
Yes.
Stories. Okay, so it was a Chassid from Polotsk. Polotsk was a very Chassidish city in Russia, Ukraine, wherever it was. And he was a Chassid of the Rebbe Maharash, the 4th Chabad Rebbe. He was a watchmaker, a very good watchmaker. But it was very hard to make a living in Polotsk. And he came to talk to the Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, there are already a few other watchmakers in Polotsk. There isn't enough work for all of us to have enough parnasa. And I can't provide for my family. So I'm asking the Rebbe for guidance. Perhaps I should move to a town I heard, which is a bit far away, called Vladimir. Not Putin.
Right.
This is before Putin. This is at the end 1800s. Mm-hmm. I heard that good watchmakers are needed in Vladimir. Should I go? The Rebbe said yes, and gave him a bracha. And if the Rebbe says to do it, so he figured it's going to be good. So he grabbed his family, they prepared, and they moved to Vladimir. And whoever gave him that advice, that they needed a watchmaker in Vladimir, he was completely right. Right off the bat, success. Success. Money, parnasa. He was able to buy things for his kids he never thought possible. Baruch Hashem, things were going extremely good. What a good decision to move to Vladimir. But there's one thing that bothered him. He had nobody to learn with in Vladimir. He says all the Jews in Vladimir were Cantonists. Who knows what the Cantonists are?
I don't know.
You've heard about this in Fabrengens, maybe after too much mashke. The Cantonists were the Jews who were taken from their families between 5 or 10 years old and sentenced to 25 years in the army.
Oh, right.
And then once they came out, if they survived and if they still remembered they were Jewish, they didn't know much. And they had shuls, sometimes for Cantonists. A lot of them could read Hebrew because they remembered that they learned this as kids, but they didn't have knowledge. So again, they read Hebrew, they read Tehillim, but he had nobody to learn with. So when the Chassids settled in Vladimir, the Cantonists were so happy. Now there is a Jew in town who can read the Torah. We don't even know how to read the Torah for Shabbos, Yom Tov. And so he would do that. He asked to do that. Anyways, months passed, success, wealth, all's good. And he was busy helping many customers, and he needed more manpower because he didn't have enough time, and he trained a few men to do this, and his business expanded. And then with his family's blessing, it says, you can go visit the Rebbe again. Okay, Baruch Hashem. He went to Lubavitch to visit the Rebbe Maharash, and visiting Lubavitch was amazing, was wonderful. He would sit amongst Chassidim and Farbreng and hear the Rebbe again. This is, he hadn't even learned for months. And the Rebbe said the mimer and the atmosphere, everything was amazing. And after Shabbos, the highlight would come. he would have his chance to have yechidut, to have a private meeting with the Rebbe. He went to the mikveh, he learned the Maimer, he prepared, and then he was ready to walk into the Rebbe's room for his bracha. He wanted to have a bracha for continued success. And he asked the Rebbe for a bracha for continued success, like XYZ. And the Rebbe did not answer his question. He talked to him about something else. He says, have you set aside time to learn Torah with others? Says Rebbe, the rest of the Jews in Vladimir, they're completely ignorant. I can't learn with them. They're all Cantonists, or either they are Cantonists or their parents are Cantonists. So what can you expect from them? In Baruch Hashem, they come to shul, they say a few prayers. Well, there's nobody that I can learn with there. In fact, I'm the only one capable of laning. There is another Jew who sometimes is able to be chazan, but I have to prepare for learning, study on my own, make a living. What do you want me to do? There's no time to learn with others. So the Rebbe says, so tell me, if that's the case, why did you move away from the great Hasidic city of Polotsk to this place, Vladimir? Why did you go? Why do you leave a place so renowned for Hasidishkeit and Torah and all these good things and go to a barren place like Vladimir? Chassid was a bit confused, right? Because why did he go to Vladimir? The Rebbe gave him a bracha, said to go. No. So says, Rebbe, the last time I was here, we were Yechidus, and I told you about my financial problems, and I said Vladimir, and you said to move. Yes, I didn't realize how ignorant the Jews were there, but and the Rebbe's bracha came to fruition. I mean, everything's going as you said. Obviously, the Rebbe knew why he went to Vladimir, but he didn't know why he went to Vladimir. He says, you're mistaken to think that you moved to Vladimir simply to make more money. That is not the reason. Your parnasa comes from heaven, comes from Shemayim. Hashem can make you make money anywhere. He doesn't have to make you move to Vladimir to make money, right? The Baal Shem Tov taught us that a neshama comes down to this world just for the sake of helping another Jew. Maybe help one Jew during his 70 or 80 year lifespan. And so your move to Vladimir was arranged from heaven for what? For you to make more parnasa? For you to learn with other Jews? For you to have an impact? No. The reason you are in that town is to inspire those who you say are ignorant, to help them grow. And my agreement for this move and the blessing I gave you for parnasa is connected with your efforts to influence others to learn and to spread the teachings of Torah in the proper way.
Who said that?
Rebbe Maharash.
Who?
Rebbe Maharash.
Who's that?
What?
Who's that?
Fourth Chabad Rebbe. Jason. You just woke up?
No.
I know, so what's going on?
I only had 3 cups of coffee. I need another cup of coffee to breathe.
This is stuff you know. Anyways.
Prior to Rabbi Schneerson, did they have this whole idea in Lubavitch of shluchim, or is that something that he invented?
He did not invent it, but he took it to another level.
So it seems like this rabbi was, it's kind of in line with the whole philosophy. You would think that he would be pleased, and it sounds like he was anyway, because of the fact that he sent somebody to Vladimir.
Yeah, no, but there wasn't a big concept of shlichus in Russia. Real concept of officially people call him shluchim, as far as I understand, is from the previous Rebbe, which did a bit of it, and then the Rebbe just exploded it. Mm-hmm. And then after the Rebbe, after Gimel Tammuz, it exploded even more. But anyways,
really?
Just a good story about the Rebbe Maharash, and know that where you are is where you're supposed to be, not for Parnasa. If you have to go somewhere for Parnasa, there's something else you got to do there. right?
No.
Did you move here for Parnassa?
I did not.
You moved here for this class, right?
I moved here because they give you great deals on these things.
Ah.
They really do, but.
That's why you think you moved here?
No, no.
Okay. Maybe because your wife wanted to move here.
Yeah, well, you know what? One of the driving forces is, I can sum it up in one word, the mayor. That's two words, right? The mayor. Unbelievable up there. And it's getting worse because.
But he wasn't there when you moved.
No, but it was moving in that direction, and now his team is like getting all these other people elected that are worse than him.
All right. We won't talk politics.
No.
You didn't move here because of the mayor.
Well.
Or because of cheap hats.
Wasn't the Marash sent me here. I never met them. So.
No, you moved here because you have work to do here.
Okay.
All right. And so, we are going to learn some ideas from Pirkei Avot, some of which are connected to what we were discussing last week. Understanding that Pirkei Avot is a tractate of the Mishnah. Doesn't have a Gemara, but is a tractate of the Mishnah. That it has recommendations of going lifnim mishurat adin, has recommendations of how you can behave above the letter of the law. These are not absolute requirements, but if you want to go above and beyond what's required of you, Pirkei Avot is the way to go. I don't know if that's one of the reasons they call it ethics of our fathers. Being ethical shouldn't be above the letter of the law, but maybe in some places it is. And you have 6 chapters, which are usually learned during Omer and during the whole summer until Rosh Hashanah, every Shabbos. And the Rebbe would recommend that besides for reciting on Shabbos afternoon the appropriate chapter for that week, you should try to learn at least one Mishnah in a way like more properly. Because when you recite the whole chapter in 5 minutes, you might catch something, but you're not really learning it. Anyways, before any learning of Pirkei Avot, there is another Mishnah that we mention that is not from Pirkei Avot, but we always mention it before each chapter. Yes? Which is a Mishnah we mentioned last week.
Yeah, right.
Kol Yisrael, yesh laim chelek le'olam haba. All Jews have a share in the world to come. Shenemar, as it states in Yeshayahu, ve'amech kulam tzadikim le'olam yirshu aretz, netzer mata'ai mase yada le'ispair. The pasuk says, your people are all righteous, they shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. That is actually just the first part of a Mishnah in Sanhedrin chapter 10. So Sanhedrin chapter 10 has obviously a few Mishnayos. The first one starts like this, but it continues. But we don't continue it as an introduction to Pirkei Avot. Now, why do we have to say this Mishnah before
that was in
each
response
chapter?
to the question I asked you.
Yes. See? I think of you sometimes.
Okay.
And it's not only because you already gave me 2 hats as presents.
You never wear them.
I wore the Venezuela hat on Sunday.
Oh, good.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's in my car, so there's a better chance.
And they,
Sometimes my son steals them.
Oh, good for him. Good boy.
Anyways, so why do we have to say this Mishnah as an introduction to Pirkei Avot each single time? Not even this Mishnah, this little part.
Morning.
Why do we need an introduction, and why this one? That's the first question we're going to try to answer at some point, not today, probably. The second question is the question that brought us to this class, or reminded me of this class, which is, what is Olam HaBa? When it says the world to come, what is it referring to? And now, there are 2 things, as I mentioned last week, that we call Olam HaBa. Number one is Gan Eden, where neshamas go pass away after 120 years. And Olam HaTechiyah, the world of the resurrection, the second stage of Mashiach. That's also referred to as Olam HaBa. And so, great. What does it mean when it says, Kol Yisrael yesh laim chelek le'olam haba? All Jews have a portion in the world to come. Which one? Gan Eden or Techiyat HaMeisim? Gan Eden or resurrection of the dead? And this will answer, because we already said it last week. There are various reasons why it's very clear that at least in this Mishnah here, Olam HaBa refers to the moment of the resurrection. First of all, if you continue this Mishnah, which we don't, it then brings exceptions. And the first exception that's brought is someone who doesn't believe in the resurrection of the dead. So it would make sense that if you're telling me, doesn't say someone who doesn't believe in Olam HaBa, it says someone who doesn't believe in the resurrection of the dead, it would make sense that when it says here Olam HaBa, it refers to that. So why am I going to give you something that you don't believe it's true? That's one reason. But even if we don't read the rest of the Mishnah, even if we just look at this piece of Mishnah, which is the one we actually are able to read before Pirkei Avot, the fact that it says Kol Yisrael, all Jews, that this is a prize, so to speak, for all Jews, without exception, because we don't mention exceptions here. Even the Mishnah does, but we don't mention it. We at least know in theory that not all Jews go to Gan Eden. Right? And so, by our power of deduction, it has to be, then Olam HaBa refers to Olam HaTechiyah, to the moment of resurrection. Yeah? Mark just doesn't agree. Now he's worried. Do I have Gan Eden or not? That's what you're worried about, yeah?
I was more worried about the 40 years.
The 40 years, that's last class. Forget about it.
I know, but didn't want to wait. Okay.
You want to sing the song?
Hmm?
You want to sing the song?
Back away, so probably break some windows and get it built. Sure.
Okay. And now a second reason that we could bring to say that Olam HaBa is Olam HaTechiyah is the fact that the pasuk says Ma'aseh Yadai. The pasuk says the work of my hands. Yes? Which kind of sounds like that Hashem created us with his hands, so to speak, but it sounds like physical. Sounds like the physical creation. So because it sounds like the work of my hands like a physical creation, and so it cannot be Gan Eden. Because Gan Eden is only souls, only neshamas. Well, Olam HaTechiyah, you have bodies. Bodies are resurrected. So even if we don't go past the Mishnah to figure out what it refers to, it's clear that this Mishnah refers to Olam HaTechiyah. There's not much discussion there. Just spoiler alert, after we finish understanding the introduction to Pirkei Avot, just so you know where we're going to learn another Mishnah from chapter 4 that also mentions Olam HaBa. And we're going to have this discussion again. Is it Gan Eden or is it Olam HaTechiyah? That's so you know where we're going. He's back. Welcome back. Time?
6:40, so I use my reasoning 3 minutes.
Okay, we're not going to cut right now, we'll do like a minute more. Because if I asked, we have to continue. Okay, why is Gan Eden just for some Jews, but Olam HaTechiyah for all Jews? That's what we want to understand. And the Rebbe says that primarily Gan Eden is, what's the word, recompensa? Not prize. Reward. Sorry. Rebbe says the Gan Eden is primarily a reward for learning Torah. Yes, it's also reward for mitzvahs, but primarily the Rebbe says Gan Eden is a reward for learning Torah, while Olam HaTechiyah is primarily a reward for mitzvot, for doing mitzvot. Primarily. You could probably apply both to both cases. And so, when it comes to learning Torah, we're all different. It's very different, the levels of learning Torah from one person to the other, including the guy from the story who went to Vladimir. So he could learn a lot, the other guy can learn a little. Some people learn like a lot of time per day, some people learn a little time per week. There's a lot of difference. And so the reward is not the same. Some people can get Gan Eden, and other people don't get Gan Eden. While with respect to mitzvahs, and we'll finish, there's much more equality. I put on tefillin, you put on tefillin. You give tzedakah, I give tzedakah. Yeah, I could have a higher quality tefillin or a higher quality etrog. But when you do a physical act of the mitzvah, it's much more equal. The tzaddik and the rasha is much more equal. There's less room for differentiation between one and the next. If you put on a mezuzah, you have a mezuzah, shkoyach. You eat kosher, you eat kosher. Okay, there's glad, there's this, there's different levels, but there's a lot of difference between the Torah learning of people and not that much difference between the fulfillment of mitzvot. And so, some have Gan Eden, which is for learning Torah. Well, all have Olam HaTechiyah because it's all equal. But what I want you to think about is, how come it seems like some Jews are excluded from Gan Eden, but those same Jews get a higher reward, which is coming back to life in the resurrection of the dead. So if you're going to give me the high reward, why don't I get the lower one? How does that work?
It seems incompatible.
That's for tomorrow.